I think they're trying. I'm not sure they know what they're doing exactly, because you do not plunge into symmetry in foreign affairs before you conducted a full assessment of what your strategic goals are vis-a-vis Russia, what policies should be, and how you achieve them. Also, you have to appoint people to do that. And the symmetry, the statements about pushing the reset button by Joe Biden and visits by Hillary Clinton to Moscow occurred when far from all key officials were appointed. So I'm wondering if the administration is putting the cart before the horse in pursuing something with Russia, which I'm not sure they themselves understand what are they trying to accomplish. I think this is a 64,000 ruble question, because Russia has so many interests at stake vis-a-vis Iran, be it arms sales, be it using Iran as a battering ram against U.S. allies in the Persian Gulf, weakening U.S. presence in the Middle East, something the Soviet Union, and even before that, the Tsarist Empire, wanted to accomplish for a long, long time. So what is it the Obama administration is offering to Russia in exchange for that cooperation with Iran? Goodwill, telling the Russians that the Iranian nuclear weapons, deliverable warheads, may be a danger to Russia. The Russians rejected it again and again. And every day you have a statement about how Iran is not a danger, how it's not a danger to the U.S., how their nuclear program is peaceful, etc., etc. But there are two pillars on which Russian-Iran policy is standing. One is multi-billion economic interests, and the other one is the strategic usage and manipulation of Iran against U.S. interests and U.S. allies, especially the Sunni Arab regimes in the Gulf. I want to hope that there is not going to be another Georgia. First and foremost because the Russians understand that the Georgian adventure caused the stock market to plunge in Russia. It caused capital flight. But people who are calling the shots, literally the shots, often are not as focused on economic calculus as Western policymakers. So if this is about the grandeur of the Russian Empire, Russia, as they said, using a very chilling rhetoric that we heard in Europe in the 1920s and 30s, Russia is rising from its knees. Russia is on the march again. That kind of thing. If they think that that is what they need in the Crimea, in Ukraine, or in Moldova, or somewhere else, then maybe even again in Georgia, the second round, to get Saakashvili out, that may occur. Although I hope, again, for the sake of the Russians and the sake of Russia's neighbors, that rising from one's knees doesn't mean putting your neighbor on his or her knees.
What kind of
I think what's driving Moldova is a very miserable economic situation, especially for young people. You saw that these were tens of thousands of youngsters who don't see really the future for themselves in Moldova, but the lack of integration with Romania, ethnically they're very, very close. The lack of that integration is also closing the door for these people to be in Romania and, ergo, in the European Union. So they're fighting essentially for their EU passports, and they're probably not going to get it. Secondly, I believe that the Russians are manipulating the Moldova issue by keeping the hopes of Transnistria, which is a small secessionist region inside the small backwater country like Moldova, keeping their hopes for secession and recognition by Russia, especially after Abkhazia and South Ossetia alive. And by manipulating this, as some colleagues call it, frozen conflict, the Russians are really pulling the chestnuts out of the fire. You know that Russian history is always a fluctuation between crackdowns and thaws. You had, in the Tsarist times, the authoritarian, repressive rule of Nicholas I, and then came Alexander II, who liberated the serfs and created a civil space for development in Russia. Then there was a crackdown, and then there were more crackdown by the Bolsheviks, and then there was a thaw under Khrushchev. Then there was a freeze under Brezhnev. So it goes back and forth. It's sort of a pendulum that is swinging. And under Putin, the pendulum was swinging to the direction of more repression, and Khodorkovsky is a symbol of that. He was put in jail for a long period of time, despite the fact that the legal case against him, the first legal case in 2003, 4, 5, was flimsy. Now comes a new leader, Medvedev, and the question is this going to be a thaw or is this going to be a freeze? If Khodorkovsky is released, even if he's released with a suspended sentence as opposed to acquittal, or even if he's pardoned, I believe it is a strong signal of a thaw, like Mikhail Gorbachev returning Andrei Sakharov from Gorky, from the exile. It will be good for Russia because Russia, the Russian elite, is feeling a little bit, strangulated. It will be good for foreign relations and foreign economic relations of Russia because it will be a signal that the security apparatus is under some kind of a political control. From everything I know, I don't believe that Medvedev really wants Khodorkovsky to become a symbol of repression under Medvedev. It's not because he loves Khodorkovsky. It's not because he necessarily is the man of the rule of law as he proclaims, but it's bad for his image overseas, and it's bad for his image among the liberal elite that still plays a role in Russia.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cohen. We really appreciate it.